Psychology facts that explain habits you can't break. Have you ever promised yourself that today would be different? That today you would stop procrastinating, stop scrolling, stop overeating, stop overthinking. And yet somehow you end up doing the same thing again? You are not weak. You are not lazy. And you are definitely not alone. The truth is far more fascinating. Psychology reveals that habits are not simply behaviors. They are deeply wired neurological patterns built into your brain for survival. What feels like a lack of discipline is often your brain doing exactly what it was designed to do. Conserve energy and repeat what feels familiar. Today, we're going to explore the psychological facts that explain why some habits feel almost impossible to break, and why understanding them may be the first real step toward change. One powerful psychological fact is that habits operate in a loop. This is known as the habit loop, and it consists of three parts: cue, routine, and reward. First, something triggers you, a cue. It could be stress, boredom, a notification sound, or even a specific time of day. Then comes the routine, the behavior itself, like checking your phone, eating junk food, or delaying a task. Finally, there is a reward, relief, pleasure, distraction, or comfort. The brain remembers this reward. Over time, it begins to crave the reward the moment it sees the cue. Eventually, the behavior becomes automatic. This is why you sometimes find yourself doing something before you even realize you've decided to do it. Your brain has already completed the loop. Another crucial psychological insight is that habits form in a part of the brain called the basal ganglia, which controls automatic behaviors. When you repeat an action enough times, the brain shifts it from conscious decision-making, which requires effort, to automatic processing, which requires very little energy. This is why habits feel effortless, even when they're harmful. Breaking a habit means forcing your brain to switch back to conscious control, which demands mental energy. And your brain naturally resists anything that feels energetically expensive. From an evolutionary perspective, conserving energy was essential for survival. So when you try to change a habit, your brain interprets it as unnecessary effort. One of the most surprising psychological facts is that your brain does not distinguish strongly between good habits and bad habits. It only recognizes repetition and reward. If something reduces stress or gives pleasure, even temporarily, your brain marks it as valuable. That's why emotional habits are the hardest to break. If you eat when stressed, scroll when lonely, or overwork when anxious, the behavior is not random. It's serving an emotional function. You are not addicted to the action itself. You are attached to the feeling it gives you. Until the emotional need is addressed, the habit continues. Dopamine plays a massive role in habits you can't break. Many people think dopamine is the pleasure chemical, but psychology tells us something deeper. Dopamine is about anticipation, not pleasure. It spikes when you expect a reward. This is why checking your phone feels addictive. You don't know what you'll find. A message, a like, good news, bad news, and that unpredictability makes it even more powerful. Variable rewards, like social media notifications or gambling wins, create stronger habits than predictable rewards. The uncertainty keeps the brain engaged, keeps chasing, keeps looping. Another psychological reason habits are hard to break is something called cognitive dissonance. This occurs when your actions and beliefs conflict. For example, you may believe you are a healthy person, yet you continue unhealthy behaviors. Instead of immediately changing the behavior, your mind often tries to reduce the discomfort by adjusting your thoughts. You might say, "I'll start tomorrow," or "It's not that bad," or "Everyone does it." The brain prefers justifying behavior over changing it because justification requires less effort than transformation. Stress is another powerful habit reinforcer. Under stress, the brain shifts into survival mode. The prefrontal cortex, the rational decision-making center, becomes less active. Meanwhile, the brain areas responsible for habits become more dominant. This is why you often fall back into old habits when you are tired, overwhelmed, or emotionally drained. In calm moments, you think clearly. In stressful moments, you revert automatically. Stress doesn't create bad habits. It exposes the ones already wired into you. Environment also shapes habits more than willpower does. Psychology consistently shows that behavior is highly context-dependent. If you always snack while watching television, your brain associates that environment with eating. If your phone is always beside your bed, your brain links bedtime with scrolling. Changing a habit often requires changing the environment. Not because you lack discipline, but because cues in your surroundings activate automatic patterns without your awareness. Humans underestimate how much their behavior is influenced by subtle environmental triggers. Identity is another hidden factor behind habits you can't break. Deep down, habits are tied to who you believe you are. If you see yourself as someone who procrastinates, your actions will align with that identity. Psychology suggests that lasting change happens when identity shifts first. Instead of focusing on stopping a behavior, focus on becoming a different kind of person. Someone who values discipline, someone who prioritizes health, someone who protects their time. When behavior aligns with identity, change feels natural. When behavior conflicts with identity, change feels forced. There is also something called the sunk cost fallacy, which keeps people stuck in habits. The more time you've spent doing something, the harder it feels to stop. If you've spent years biting your nails, overworking, or staying in unhealthy routines, your brain resists letting go because it feels like losing past investment. But psychologically, past investment does not justify future continuation. Yet emotionally, it feels like it does. Another deep psychological truth is that habits are connected to memory. Every time you repeat a behavior, neural pathways strengthen. It's like carving a path through a forest. The more you walk the same route, the clearer it becomes. Breaking a habit does not erase the old path, it simply builds a new one. That's why relapse happens. Under pressure, your brain may return to the familiar trail. But that doesn't mean change is impossible. It means new pathways need repetition to become stronger than old ones. Sleep deprivation also makes habits harder to break. When you are sleep deprived, your impulse control weakens. Emotional reactivity increases. Cravings intensify. Decision-making declines. Your brain becomes more reward-driven and less future-focused. So if you're trying to break a habit while consistently exhausted, you are fighting biology itself. Psychological research shows that self-control is dramatically influenced by physical state. Social psychology adds another layer. Humans are wired for belonging. If your habits are socially reinforced, like drinking in social gatherings or checking messages constantly because everyone else does, change feels like social risk. Sometimes we maintain habits not because we love them, but because they keep us connected. The fear of exclusion can be stronger than the desire for improvement. There is also the comfort of familiarity. Even negative habits feel predictable, and predictability feels safe. The unknown, even if it's better, can trigger anxiety. Your brain prefers a known discomfort over an unknown possibility. This is why people stay stuck in cycles they dislike. Familiar pain can feel safer than unfamiliar growth. Finally, one of the most empowering psychological facts is this: habits are not broken, they are replaced. The brain does not like emptiness. If you remove a behavior without replacing the reward, the loop remains incomplete. Instead of focusing only on stopping, focus on substitution. Replace stress eating with stress walking. Replace scrolling with reading. Replace late-night overthinking with structured journaling. The cue remains. The reward remains. But the routine changes. Understanding these psychological mechanisms changes everything. It shifts the narrative from, "Why am I so weak?" to, "How is my brain wired?" It replaces shame with awareness. And awareness is powerful. Because when you understand that habits are neurological patterns shaped by emotion, stress, environment, identity, and dopamine, you stop blaming yourself and start working with your brain instead of against it. The habits you can't break are not proof of failure. They are proof of repetition. And repetition can work in your favor too. Change is not about dramatic transformation overnight. It is about small, consistent rewiring. It is about patience with your psychology. It is about understanding that your brain built these patterns to protect you, even if they no longer serve you. And perhaps the most important realization of all is this: if habits can be learned automatically, they can be relearned intentionally. The same brain that created the pattern can create a new one. It will resist at first. It will prefer comfort. It will crave familiarity. But with repetition, awareness, and small environmental adjustments, new habits become automatic too. The question is not whether you are strong enough to break your habits. The question is whether you understand them deeply enough to reshape them. Because once you understand the psychology behind them, you are no longer trapped, you are informed. And informed change is powerful change. The habits you can't break are not proof of failure. They are proof of repetition. And repetition can work in your favor too. Change is not about dramatic transformation overnight. It is about small, consistent rewiring. It is about patience with your psychology. It is about understanding that your brain built these patterns to protect you, even if they no longer serve you. And perhaps the most important realization of all is this. If habits can be learned automatically, they can be relearned intentionally. The same brain that created the pattern can create a new one. It will resist at first. It will prefer comfort. It will crave familiarity. But with repetition, awareness, and small environmental adjustments, new habits become automatic too. The question is not whether you are strong enough to break your habits. The question is whether you understand them deeply enough to reshape them. Because once you understand the psychology behind them, you are no longer trapped, you are informed. And informed change is powerful change. Every time you tried and failed, you were not proving weakness, you were gathering awareness. Every time you noticed the trigger, even if you still followed the routine, you were strengthening consciousness. Change does not begin when the behavior stops. Change begins the moment you become aware of it. And you are aware now. Understand this. Growth feels uncomfortable because your brain is stepping into unfamiliar territory. That discomfort you feel when you resist a habit, that is not suffering. That is rewiring. That is your brain building a new pathway. It may feel small. It may feel invisible. But inside you, something powerful is happening. You don't need to be perfect. You need to be consistent. You don't need dramatic transformation overnight. You need one small decision repeated tomorrow, and then the next day, and then again, because the same repetition that built your old habits will build your new ones. The difference is that this time you are choosing consciously. There will be moments when you slip, moments when stress wins, moments when old patterns return. But relapse is not failure, it is feedback. It is your brain asking for more reinforcement of the new path. Do not turn a moment into a story about who you are. You are not your worst day. You are not your hardest moment. You are the person who keeps trying. And remember something powerful. Discipline is not about punishment. It is about self-respect. Every time you choose the healthier action, even in a small way, you are telling yourself, I deserve better. You are proving that your future matters more than your temporary comfort. Your habits may have been formed automatically, but your future will be formed intentionally. Imagine who you could become 1 year from now if you rewired just one habit. Imagine the confidence, the clarity, the self-trust, because that is what breaking a habit really builds. Not just a new behavior, but a new relationship with yourself. You are not fighting against your brain. You are training it. And the brain is adaptable. It is powerful. It changes throughout your entire life. That means you are never stuck. Not at 20. Not at 40. Not at 60. As long as you are alive, your brain can change. And if your brain can change, your life can change. So don't leave this video feeling guilty. Leave it feeling informed. Leave it feeling capable. Leave it knowing that the next small decision you make, the next pause before reacting, the next time you choose differently, that is the moment everything begins shifting. Because breaking a habit is not just about changing behavior. It is about rebuilding trust with yourself. Think about how many times you told yourself you would start tomorrow. How many times you made promises in the quiet of your mind. Promises no one else heard. And when you broke those promises, something inside you shifted. Not loudly, not dramatically, but subtly. You began trusting yourself a little less. That is the real damage of unbreakable habits. It's not the scrolling. It's not the procrastination. It's not the late nights. It's the erosion of self-trust. And here is a powerful psychological truth. Self-trust is built the same way habits are built, through repetition. Every time you keep a small promise to yourself, your brain records evidence. Evidence that you are reliable. Evidence that you follow through. Evidence that your words matter. And over time, that evidence becomes identity. Confidence is not loud motivation. It is accumulated proof. That's why you must start small. Extremely small. So small that your brain cannot resist it. If you want to read daily, start with 1 page. If you want to exercise, start with 5 minutes. If you want to stop checking your phone at night, begin by delaying it for 10 minutes. These small wins look insignificant from the outside, but neurologically they are monumental, because they build momentum without triggering resistance. Psychology shows that motivation often follows action, not the other way around. We wait to feel inspired before starting. But action creates clarity. Action creates belief. Action creates energy. When you move first, your brain catches up. Another powerful idea you must understand is this: you cannot hate yourself into growth. Many people try to break habits by criticizing themselves. Why am I like this? What's wrong with me? I have no discipline. But shame activates stress, and stress strengthens old habits. The very emotion you use to push yourself forward is secretly pulling you back. Compassion, however, reduces stress, and a calm brain learns faster. This does not mean making excuses. It means acknowledging your humanity. It means recognizing that you developed certain habits at times when you needed comfort, safety, or distraction. They served you once. Maybe they protected you, but now you are evolving. Growth is not rejection of your past self. It is graduation. And understand this: your environment must support your evolution. You cannot expect to grow in the same setup that reinforced your old patterns. Rearrange your space. Remove temptations. Create friction for bad habits and ease for good ones. Make the healthy choice obvious. Make the unhealthy choice inconvenient. Behavior follows structure more than intention. Also, pay attention to the language you use internally. Instead of saying, "I'm trying to quit," say, "I don't do that anymore." That shift may sound small, but psychologically it signals identity change. It closes the door instead of leaving it slightly open. And there will be hard days. Days when you feel exhausted. Days when progress feels invisible. Days when the old habit whispers louder than your new decision. In those moments, don't think about forever. Think about now. Win the next minute. Then the next. Because habits are not broken in a year. They are broken in moments. Moment by moment. Choice by choice. Awareness by awareness. One day you will look back and realize the urge that once controlled you is quieter, weaker, less automatic. And you will understand something profound. You did not defeat your habit in one dramatic battle. You outgrew it. And that is the real transformation. Not force. Not pressure. Not self-punishment, but steady, intentional evolution. Remember, the brain changes through neuroplasticity, the ability to reorganize itself by forming new neural connections. This means you are biologically designed to adapt. Your mind is not fixed. Your patterns are not permanent. Your future is not predetermined by your past behavior. Every repetition of a better choice is literally reshaping your brain structure. You are sculpting your own mind. So as this video comes to an end, don't just feel motivated. Feel responsible in the most empowering way possible. Responsible for the small decisions. Responsible for your environment. Responsible for protecting your focus. Responsible for the version of yourself you are becoming. Because habits shape identity, and identity shapes destiny. The person you become next year is hidden inside the small decisions you make tonight. So start gently, start intentionally, start imperfectly, but start. And remember, the strongest people are not those who never struggle with habits. They are the ones who understand them, work with their psychology, and patiently rebuild themselves until the new pattern becomes who they are. Your change does not begin tomorrow. It begins with your very next choice.